Hi.
I'm Nick. I'm looking at Brandon Youst and Michele Madison.
What's up, dudes?
What up? What up? We are in Brooklyn. We're here for New York Ag Tech Week. We have a pile of people with us, and they're off doing farm tours. And so we have Michele pinned down for the next hour. So, Michele, you've been doing STEM work in Title I schools and juvenile detention centers for 5 years. But
That's correct.
you're only 25, so your entire working career seems to be specialized down to this. And let's crack open that nut and see what's in that head of yours.
Well, thank you very much. I am only 25. And also I don't know if you know this, but I'm an international award-winning business owner.
Yeah, we've heard.
Oh, have you? Have you? I don't. Just recently I won the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award. Just in case you didn't know. Just throwing that out
Didn't
there.
know.
Yeah, it was no big deal. I got to meet Lonnie Ali, his wife.
Michael J. Fox.
Whoa, bro. Actually, no, Michael J. Fox didn't come. He accepted the award over video. However, I did get to meet Michael Lang, who was the co-founder of Woodstock. That was really amazing. And Mark Tewksbury, who is a gold medalist swimmer from Canada. He was really amazing. And then I got to meet these really amazing people who also won awards, who are doing really cool things all across the world.
And what were all the things that you were doing that led to that?
So I'm the CEO of Farming the Future. And so essentially what I do is I go around and I design and build greenhouses with aquaponics systems in them for juvenile detention facilities and Title I schools and in low-income communities. So I've been doing it for 5 years, and it started off as farming. I was farming, and I was really poor, and I grew up really poor. And so I had decided I'm just not going to be poor anymore. I became an adult and I was like, screw that. It sucks. I'm just going to not just be poor anymore. And I didn't realize this until not that long ago, but I had always been an entrepreneur. I was since I was a little kid. And I ended up falling in love with science when I went away to college and was interested in biofuels and alternative fuels when I saw my first aquaponics system. And as soon as I saw my first aquaponics system, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing. I essentially quit my job, technically got fired, but it was only because I didn't, whatever.
We've all been fired.
Yes.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'm just...
You stopped working there.
Yeah, and so quit my job, started sleeping in a greenhouse, gave up my apartment, and just started doing it. And changed my major from biology to engineering, and I was going to community college at the time, and I was trying to work to pay for school, and I couldn't get... I actually graduated high school from the hospital, or from a program called Hospital Homebound, so I never took the SATs or the ACTs, and so when it came time to apply to university, I couldn't because I didn't have anything. I didn't have scores. And so when it came for financial aid and scholarships, I didn't qualify for pretty much anything. So I was trying to go to school and pay for it and work. Couldn't do it. So I ended up dropping out, and I begged the school, told them, listen, dude, I can do this, bro. Just give me a scholarship. I can do it. Wouldn't do it. I said, fine. I'll prove to you what I can do with no resources. Imagine me with resources. So I fell in love with aquaponics. I loved the fact that it was I don't know if you know this, but I'm only 4'11" as well. And I'm a woman in ag. So,
I had no context clues that any of this was going on.
So, what I really loved about aquaponics was it was so much larger than myself. It was so absurdly ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Aquaponics is the most ridiculous. When you see it, it's amazing. And so I found it almost as a way to prove myself. And I fell in love with how creative you could be with it, because it was this new thing and you could design it in all of these different ways and be creative. And they were just so much bigger than me. And so if I could do that, then I could prove that I did that. Here's the evidence. It's not a degree. It's not a sheet of paper, because it's way bigger than that. Like, you do it. You try to do that, bro. I dare you. And so, and it was a really good, I'm a hands-on learner. So it was a really good way to be able to teach myself all these different mechanisms and all of these different concepts while doing it. And so I fell in love with it. And so that's just what I did. I just did that. And so I had started off farming and trying to sell produce, and did farmers markets and online markets. And that was really, really awful. Just did not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make a lot of money at all. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to feed people with it. And like, the people at farmers markets aren't the people who need the access to the food. So instead, I just started giving it away. I wasn't making a lot of money anyways, so I just started giving it away. And eventually was just collecting things. Like, I'd collect. I didn't have any money. I was broke. I was literally selling bell peppers to buy tampons and bronzer, so that way I could put makeup on. I was selling bell peppers, $4 a pound. But so I never thought I was smart. So I just wanted to do, and so I kept trying to every day just do more and more. And so I just started collecting trash. Like, if I was going down the side of the road, even if I don't care who I was with, there was trash on the side of the road and it looked like it was good, you're turning the car around. Turn around right now. Like, I'll roll and, like, let's see what this is. Oh, is this polyethylene? Is this food grade polyethylene? Oh shit, let's take this. Like, dirty old concrete mixing trays someone threw out from Home Depot. I'm just like, done, son. I'll take that. I remember one time I found some lady must have had a bunch of pots. Like, she must have had a huge garden. And I was driving by and I noticed this big black contractor's bag, and there were all these pots, like all of these the little 4-inch and seed like the plugs. And I was like, oh my God. And I pulled over immediately and my car was full of them. There were 2 bags. It was amazing. And so I just started collecting anything that I could. And it was stupid to try to buy anything also, because I didn't know what I was doing. So
I like your lack of resources. You know, you said you were poor growing up. In aquaponics especially, a lot of people that want to do it have a lack of resources, or they're dealing with the educational system, which has a lack of resources. And, you know, Bootstrap gets reached out to a lot to donate, you know, systems or greenhouses, and it's a struggle because we want to do it for everybody. But you took a different approach, and I think...
If you're asking for an aquaponics system, you don't deserve one. Like, I'll say that right now. Aquaponics is not easy. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to, especially in the beginning, to understand how it works and then be able to keep it running. And if you're not willing to put forth the effort to source your own materials and at least try anything.
Because the thing with aquaponics, I mean, there's so, like, you can be so creative with it. I mean,
dude, take a 5-gallon bucket before you ask anybody for anything. Take a 5-gallon bucket, take a pot, drill 2 holes in, drill 2 holes in it, take a stick that you found outside, run it through, fill it up with dirt, and stick a plant in there and let it hang in the 5-gallon bucket. Done. Try anything first. Sorry.
Well, I asked that question because that lack of resources has made you who you are, and that's a lot more resilient, and you're just an all-around badass. And I think without that happening to you in your life, it's been a benefit and not really a detriment.
I'd agree with that. I think that when I was younger, it was really difficult to see. I viewed life sucked. You're this kid and you're poor and you're in these awful circumstances and you have all these things happening to you and you don't make any of your own decisions. And when I became an adult, life is amazing. Especially for me, if you don't, what's the worst thing that's going to happen when you don't come from a lot and all of a sudden you're an adult and you can make your own decisions? Anything's possible. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Is it not going to work? Cool, try something else. You're going to wake up. Everything works out or you're dead. You're going to wake up tomorrow. You're going to keep trying to survive. So if at the end of the day, things are really hard, maybe they're not. That's baseline. Life is always going to be hard. That's baseline. What you have to do is just look at it and be like, everything's an opportunity. What is it everything's an opportunity. There's an opportunity in everything. And so it's just being malleable and being able to kind of mold yourself into your situation and fit where you can, that you have to adapt. And that's a good thing. So the way that I started doing it in schools and juvenile detention facilities was actually a really amazing story. It's actually a really good story. I wasn't making any money. I was real broke for a real long time. And when I say that, I mean my whole life, but really 2 years of doing this. So I had stopped selling food. I had started guerrilla giving. I'd bag up the food I was growing and I'd just go and I'd leave it on doorsteps in the middle of the night because people won't take food. It's poisoned, or their pride won't let them do it. So you just go around and you just drop it on doorsteps. So I wasn't selling. And so, but I kept building and I kept doing events, like going out and like doing the science festival and, doing WFSU's NPR citizen workshops, or, going out and teaching people what aquaponics was, especially because back then nobody really knew what it was. It's in the last 4 years, the industry has exploded. So while doing that, these teachers in schools would find out about it, and they started reaching out, and they would want an aquaponics system, and they wouldn't know what to do with it. So we'd go and put a fish tank in there and set the whole thing up, and then they wouldn't know what to do with it, and it wouldn't work. So they'd call and they'd say, "Hey, can you come in? Like, I don't understand, this isn't working, or what do I do with it?" So then I'd go in and they'd say, "Well, hey, since you're here, why don't you just teach the kids a lesson while you're here?" So then I would teach the kids, and then that turned into me starting to make worksheets and then writing out teacher directions and background information. And then eventually what happened was the gardening in schools thing became really popular. And there was a school called the Gazvini Success Academy and Second Chance School, which is essentially where if you get expelled from all of the other schools, or you're a really bad dropout risk, or you've been arrested, you get sent to that school. And they had a greenhouse, and they wanted a garden program. So, but they didn't have any money. So I, at the time, was just growing food. And so I had a lot of time. And I ended up teaching 9 classes a week. I was the reason why these kids graduated, because I was able to give them their agricultural science credit. It was my first time really teaching a full program. And so for an entire year, 2 days a week, I taught all of these students in this Second Chance School, and developed my entire program, like, while I was doing it. So, and I never got paid $1. And they kept saying, "Oh, we're waiting on this grant to come in. We're going to pay you. Just keep it going." And I built them an aquaponics system inside of the greenhouse, and then developed this entire outside area, which was a really good, how I learned a lot of setting them up now is because of that. They gave me a platform to develop everything and test it as I was going. And it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And I'd go home crying Like every time I'd go home crying, and I'd cry on my way there because the teachers, a lot of the teachers don't want to do it. It's more work. And so I'd go, and people would say, why do you keep going back? Why do you keep going back? Like, they're never going to pay you. It's not worth it. You're like, it's not, just stop. And I'd be like, I can't, like, those kids are expecting me to be there. I am the highlight of those kids' day, because those kids sit in this classroom on a computer. Like, they sit on a computer. It's like FLVS, the Florida Virtual School. And so they're just making up these classes that they failed. So they didn't have any stimulation or teaching or engagement. So, and I just kept going back, and I did a whole school year as a professional instructor or a volunteer. I don't even know how they allowed me to be in there at the time, but I did that whole year. And to this day, because of that program, I have a student who is at this point a good friend of mine, who runs his own business. He was a dropout risk. He graduated high school. I helped him start his own business. He started off pretty much with all of my tools. He'd call me, be like, it's in the shed, bro. Just go take it. Like, just take it. Just leave it on the patio when you're done. And I'd go out, and he started off mowing lawns, and then upped it to landscaping. And I would take him and be like, hey, let me teach you how to build a greenhouse. Let me teach you how to do wiggle wire. Let's do this. He'd call me and, be like, what plants, how do I get a commercial account with this company and this, and LLCs and, liability insurance. And to this day, he now supports himself. He's 19 years old. He's about to turn 20. He still breeds mealworms. I gave him the mealworms from the mealworm lesson, the first mealworm lesson I ever taught. And he's like, hey, I think I want to do that to make some extra money. I have neighbors with chickens. Like, where do I get them from? And I was like, here, you get them right here. Here you go. I'll give you these. I'll give you the breeding chamber and the container and everything. Here, just take it. And to this day, he still has it. He's still breeding mealworms, and he runs his own business. He just bought a trailer and a riding mower, and he just got 2 commercial properties to do the landscaping and maintenance with. Like, because that program, like, as hard as that was, I don't know how many students I've affected, because you don't know what your impact really is. But just knowing that the one kid who in the circumstances that he was in, he's now doing that. That's worth it. Like, that's amazing.
So, I mean, a lot of people we talk to, I think, could very easily be in that position where the school, in essence, fails. Mm-hmm. People like us, or people like me, people like him, that school's awful. It's not something you like. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with education right now? Everybody knows that we're testing. We're basically teaching to pass these tests. But let's say this program wasn't here. What else is going on from a vocational standpoint? Because I feel like all these types of second chance schools and programs all fall back on vocation. Is that something that should have been there anyway? Is it something that's there but they don't have enough time at? I mean, where's that disconnect happening within education?
So there isn't a lot of career education going on. Granted, I work in Title I schools and juvenile detention facilities.
Explain that. I mean, we know what it is, but in case this is the first time somebody's ever heard it, what's Title I school?
So a Title I school is, they get special funding. A Title I school is a school that's in a low-income, impoverished area. Those are the schools where everybody who goes gets free breakfast, free lunch. If those kids don't go to school, then they're probably not eating that day. So it's an impoverished area, and so they'll get different funds to help mitigate the lack of resources in the community.
These are in areas that's not having to pay as much property tax. There's already low funding.
Multiple generations in one trailer.
Yeah. These school systems have not been developed.
and they're they're mostly failing school districts. So they're F and D schools, C's too, but it's normally not. They're not normally A plus schools that are in these areas because the teachers aren't there. I mean, it's very difficult to find teachers to teach, and it's a very hard demographic.
And then I'm assuming lots of single parents, and the parents that are there are probably having to work ungodly amounts.
Yeah, it's a lot of, grandma, great grandma is still is living there. Grandma is there taking care of the kids, her kids, and mom is either out working entry level position, whether it be at Popeyes or McDonald's or Winn-Dixie, and working 2 jobs as well if they're able to work. And then even some of them have multiple children who then their oldest will have a child, and so it just compounds, and it's not a good situation. And then on top of that, the infrastructure for the entire city is so old that, and there isn't money in the community. So if there's not a bunch of wealth in the community, and you're not getting that from the taxes, the city can't do anything about it. So there's not a lot of economic activity. So when a storm comes in, you lose electricity so quickly, and it doesn't have to be a hurricane. You get a hurricane that comes in, and it demolishes the town and the infrastructure. I mean, we're talking about schools where the ACs aren't working, or something happened and they have to shut the water off, or the county's under a water boil notice. It's so they can't drink from the water fountains. They're not easy areas. They're just not easy areas.
So compound all that, they show up in your class.
They show up in my class, and I'm absolutely insane, and they don't know. They're a lot of these kids, the vernacular that is used is they're grown. That's how a lot of the teachers will say what the issue is with the students. They'll say they're just so grown. They just think they're so grown, and so a lot of these students are really jaded already, and they don't have a good view of education. Education is not looked at as a good thing. A lot of parents will even put their kid oh, you think you're smarter than me now all of a sudden? Even some people who work in the schools will, if you have a higher level of education, they'll even say, oh, you just think you're so white because you have a master's degree, or you speak, you articulate, and you use a larger vocabulary. And it happens all the time, and it's a really hard barrier to get through. And I go in, and the demographic is African American and Hispanic, and so I'll go in, I'm just this short little white girl, blonde hair, going in saying, science is fun, kids, let's do this. And it's just such it's very shocking. It's and I'm from such a different culture. Some of these families have never even been outside of the county that they've grown up in. So it's just this cultural shock almost. And so these kids will come in, and they have all of these things working against them. And the biggest thing is their mindset, right? Because they're this is school's stupid. I'm just gonna join a gang, or I'm just gonna be a hustler. I'm just gonna I'm already working with my boy over here, selling weed, and it they don't it's their mindset is the hardest thing to get past, and it's not their fault either because it's consistently reinforced. And even the teachers the kids are really bad. They're really mean. They're very mean kids, and they're mostly bigger than I am. Even the 5th graders, you get some tall 5th graders, man. But the 8th graders too, they can be, but those are also the creative ones. When I get a kid who's really good at putting me down, I'm like, yo, bro, come on, I'm taking you under my wing. Let's do this. Like, if you can be that creative, like if you can take that creativity, that quick-wittedness, and that's great. Let's redirect it. And those are always the ones who are really smart and just need guidance. But yeah, they come in and they see me, and all of a sudden things are possible. So in a lot of people, they'll just think, you live in this county and you die in the county. And so it doesn't seem like there's this whole big world of possibilities. And so all of a sudden they come into my class and they're sitting with me, and I'm just like, yo, dude, bro, you want to see something cool? Check this out. And I take a water bottle and a straw and a test tube, and I'm like, yo, dude, check this out. Make a mini bell siphon out of almost nothing, and show them, like, look at the world around you creatively. You can make there's opportunity in everything. You can make something out of nothing. Like, this isn't what you see doesn't have to, what you think you see doesn't have to be accurate. You can change. You can rewrite anything you want to. It's all about how you look at it and how you view it. Perception is key. And so if you want, you want to be famous, you want to be a famous rap artist? All right, cool. What's your plan? How are you doing this? Oh, you're just rapping in the hallways? What's your SoundCloud look like? Do you have like a book? Or are these written down? Do you have a marketing plan? Have you reached out to anybody? Like, are you throwing community events? And be like, if you actually want to do this, there are pathways to do it. And I show them that it's these little steps to reach this giant goal, which normally, there's so much consumerism and celebrities and famous and wealth, and but how do people get there? As kids, they don't think about all of the things behind it. And so when I go in there and I'm all excited, I'm always happy no matter what, even when they're being really, really mean to me. And I'm like, it's okay, this is fine. And they can't help but get excited. And then I show them, I'm like, cool, how did you idolize this person, how did they get there? What's all the work that went into that? It is small steps. And then I'll use myself as an example. I'll be like, yo, bro, like, listen, elementary school out of a minivan, bro, like, I get you. Like, let me show you how you don't have to live like this anymore, because this isn't fun. Join my world. It's a blast.
What's the biggest thing keeping them from seeing that opportunity, even if you give them the example?
Even if a lot of the times you'll see a kid and they'll get a spark, they'll be like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, that's science. I just did that. And I'm like, yo, bro, you just did that. And they'll get excited about it. But then what ends up happening is they'll get shot down real quick. Whether it be by, the other fellow classmates, fellow peers, who will turn around and immediately make fun of them, or, and I'm not saying this, I'm not putting teachers down in any way. I'm a teacher. It's really hard. And especially with Title I schools, it's very difficult. But a lot of teachers, it's just so difficult that the kids who do find that spark, they get lost in the crowd, and they don't get the attention. And the teachers will just trying to get the students' attention, and they'll have to scream at the kids and even call. Like, sometimes, man, a teacher will be like, stop being so stupid. Sit down. What are you doing? And it's just, it hurts, it hurts to hear, and you hear that a lot. And they're not, that's the culture. It's the culture. And then, it's not always reinforced. There's not a lot of people who are like, yes, foster and grow this idea of science and education and, you know, being able to do anything. It's hard, you know. I mean, there are 8th graders working at the dollar store to help pay the bills for their families, you know, showing up in 8th grade wearing their Dollar General uniform. And I mean, I relate to that. In 8th grade, I was getting on a bus in the morning for school, getting off on a different bus in the afternoon. I'd go to school in my Publix uniform, which is a grocery store. I bagged groceries for like starting in 8th grade so I could help pay the water and electricity bill when I was younger. So I mean, I get it, and it's just like you don't like change that. Let's change that. But it's hard. It's really hard, and people are really mean. And I can't, you know, I can't be there every day, and you have to be willing to put that effort in yourself. But it's very easy to just blame it on your circumstances.
On the other side of the mirror, there's also STEM education going on at the best schools, the schools with all the money. What's that look like?
I have no idea. I wish I knew. I want to know what that looks like. I haven't been in a wealthy in a not Title I school in so long that I don't know what that looks like. I can imagine. Like I kind of remember. And sometimes you'll do, like I do STEM camps. And so when you do STEM camps, people pay to be there because it's a camp. And it's so different because the kids are there and they want to engage and they want to learn. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, cool. Like all of you guys are all doing all these things.
Like, do you feel like now you're actually getting the chance to teach instead of being a teacher and a counselor and a cheerleader and a mentor and all these things you have to be just to wrangle any attention at all?
It is so nice. It is so nice to be with students who want to do it. You can you do get to actually teach, and then you get to see they'll think, and they'll like ask you questions that you're like, yeah, that's a good question. Like, let's talk about that. Let's break this down. And it is definitely really nice, and they're appreciative too because they enjoy the act of learning. It's not a chore. They want it. But STEM in a good school, it must be amazing because it's so fun. Like, what I do is so fun. It's so cool. Like, imagine like having a whole bunch of kids who were intrinsically motivated. Had intrinsic motivation to engage and participate in it.
Plus support at home.
Plus support at home. And the thought of that that's got to be exceptional. That's got to be exceptional. I go to work every day. I'm like, cool. Like, what am I about to walk into? And you prep yourself. You walk in and a kid is just taking his pen and he just stabs the plastic and just tears it down. And what are you going to do? It's already really difficult to get these programs in schools. And so you're going to start getting kids in trouble for vandalizing the greenhouse that's already like, we got the greenhouse in, we're good, okay, like let's keep this going, and so, and you're just like, well, what's going to happen today? And they just break things. And so I just to have it must be amazing. Like, those kids, they're just so lucky. And parents don't realize how lucky they are to be in an A+ school or a B school. Parents have no idea. If they knew the difference, if they could go from that A school to a D school, same grade, and see what it's like, I think that there would be a lot more help for these schools, because as a parent, it hurts. Like it hurts to see, because some of these kids are really smart, and it hurts to see that they're not getting the same opportunity, because that's not their fault. It's not their fault. And so they have no idea how lucky they are. I mean, there's a school in this one county. They're not it's an elementary school, and during lunchtime, they're not allowed to talk. They have to keep their legs like underneath the lunch table. They're not allowed to talk. They are the people walk through, and if they're talking, they're immediately reprimanded, and they're not allowed to talk to each other. And all they have to do, they go in and they have to eat their lunch, and then they get up by table and they throw it out and they go back to class.
That's crazy.
It's scary.
And in middle class, like better schools, lunch is the best period. It's when you get to talk to all of your friends.
That's like the congregation. That's the best time. That was when I saw that was that. I don't have a program in that school. I'm trying to get a program in that school. But
is there like a number one factor that can be like worked on? Like obviously money would solve a lot of issues, but just something like that, like the silence at lunch, that would seem to me a huge, just like such negative, like if you're depressing even interaction, like is there any approach? Is there any, not even a magic wand, but like what can we tackle? What can be tackled and changed that would have like the biggest benefit?
There are two things. So there are two ways to solve this. I mean, there's multiple ways, but in a really awesome world, here's your two ways. So the first one is make teachers like doctors. Teachers, people are going to school to become teachers so they can have the summers off. There are people who are like, oh man, like I don't know what to do. It didn't work out. I'll get my certificate and I'll go teach. Oh, it's so great teaching because, you always get the holidays and the summers off, And those are the people, who take that pay because that's what they have. And so those aren't teachers. You have somebody who has a certificate teaching science. They have no science background, but they didn't know what else to do, and the job was there because the people who are teachers can't live first of all, they have student debt that they got to pay off, and that those aren't the people who are going to take those positions because it's a hard job. It's really, really hard, and it's a lot of work, and it's severely underpaid. And so right off the bat, you want to solve it, you have to make it back to being a very well-respected position.
More federal funding for teacher pay.
Correct. The teachers are happy, especially like teachers. I mean, real teachers. They are happy to spend their own money on supplies for kids. No problem. And if you were to give them the ability to do that, the increase in the success in the classroom would be exponential. And if the teachers aren't worried about working another job to be able to pay their bills, they could be at home doing lesson planning, developing new ways to communicate with these students instead of worrying about having another side hustle or, starting their own business or, something. I mean, the schools don't need more money for more things. A school is just a building. It's the teachers who make the school what it is. And if you give the teachers the resources, then that is what will make it successful. And by that I mean money. I don't mean like pencils and shit like that. I mean, give them the money that they need to actually do it. Part of the reason why I am so successful with it is because I have the time for the research and development to make up and create these amazing engaged hands-on activities, because I run my own business where I have all of these different things that I do where I make money, and that's what I'm paid to, like, that's what I do. And so that is crucial. Now the second thing, and just make them run around the classroom all day, really, really excited, and just say how much they love their job, and just make that a part of the rules for the school. If that's just required, like if you have to be happy all day and you get in trouble for not being happy in the classroom, you get written up.
I like it. It's like the opposite of lunch approach.
Yeah. It's kids are like sponges. And if you're not happy and you're not enjoying yourself, the kids aren't either.
They're modeling us.
Exactly. And it's hard. It's hard because the kids are mean.
Well, it's trash at home. They get yelled at school. They get yelled at when they get home again.
Yep.
Yeah. Different problems.
They're dealing with their peers.
Yeah.
Which are in the same boat.
Well, when you're in poor areas, it's the mindsets which get you out of it. They're no longer there. So you're surrounded by people who are stuck in this loop.
Yep. And it's, I really believe that exposure of other things is just so important. With these kids, listen, they don't need to understand, all the fine mechanisms of nitrification and acidification. They need to understand that there are other possibilities out there. It's not just what you see around you. I mean, can you imagine an 8th grader in one of the poorest counties who lives in a 5-generation home, whose older sister has a kid, and has 4 siblings, great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, father's in prison, lives in a trailer, never left the county before. Take that kid, bring them to New Orleans. Holy shit. That would blow their minds. They have no idea. That is so different. It's so it is unreal. Like anything when you're in this box, you can't think of anything else. You can't have the drive or think that it's possible if you've never seen it. If you've never even heard of it. Well, what is New Orleans? Where is that? Let me show you. And just we just need to pick these kids up and just drop them off in different places and say, hey, look, here are all of these other people doing all of these things. Look how amazing this is. Look at the architecture of these buildings. Look at there are all of these other jobs. Look, there are here's an area where there are kids hanging out together, going to some arcade place that exists. That's a thing. That's where you could be hanging out with your friends instead of the parking lot of the liquor store, and to know that that's out there and to know what it looks like to see it is so critical. And I truly believe that just getting them exposure is so important, because there's no reason for them to learn. Why would they learn? Why would they learn anything in school? So there's no point. They're just going to stay where they are.
That's a good point. There's no point because they don't know what the point is, because they haven't been able to see it.
Exactly.
So I guess you're recommending more money for teachers and more field trips.
Yep. 100%.
But not field trips within town to the factory that
Yeah.
everybody's going to work in eventually when they wash out.
Mm-hmm.
But that seems actionable to me. That's why if we can define it, it's that, and now we can sort of vouch for that, talk to people about it more.
Yeah.
Cool. So with those couple action items in mind, what's next for you in your evolution as a business owner, but also your approach towards making the impact that you're looking to make within these schools?
Well, I think that moving forward, I'm trying to get more teachers under my control. So that way I can enforce those you have to always be happy in the classroom rules. But I'm taking my curriculum from just being with me to putting it online. So that way it can be leased out by school districts and be able to have teachers across the nation have access to it and say, oh, like we're teaching this standard, and just go online, type it in, and find one of the lessons that we do, and then have, all whatever materials you need by now, ship it to your classroom, done, enter how many students you have, and it's there. And then provide professional development workshops and be able to get more teachers in more classrooms that have the not freedom, but the confidence to be able to teach, because it's also, technically I'm a private contractor, so I don't have to follow all the same rules as regular teachers do, and so that gives you kind of like a freedom, and so moving forward with that, taking that and just making it so widely available, and then farming the future, a family company in your child's school and at your home, providing all of your agricultural and educational needs.
Wonderful. So if people wanted to learn more, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at farming
Underscore?
underscore the future. Well, the underscore future. And on Facebook at Farming the Future.
Well, thank you, Michele. It's been a pleasure. We'll hear from you in the future.